Hello everyone, it's me again. Now, how about let's talk about possibly one of the aspects that's most common in Skibidi Toilet fan series and just generally anything relating to the series. Upgrades. However, there's a lot of things that people get wrong, and as a design nerd, I've decided to put my hat into the ring. So, we'll talk about these 4 points: power creep avoidance, design choice, episode scaling, and actually having a purpose. So first of all, power creep avoidance. So, let's talk about these two first of all, and also don't mind the fact that this is the old asset. I've just been working on this for a long time, and this was back when I was using the original asset. Let's start off with Time Clockman first. So, in general, Multiverse is a bit of a mixed bag when it comes to scaling. Especially when it comes to comparing the upgraded forms with the original forms. Now, I'll give them some credit. They do put some limits on the upgraded Time Clockman. That being the fact it can only be used 3 times within 24 hours and has a radius of 1,000 kilometers. However, 1,000 kilometers is still a lot. It's like the entirety of Germany. And you want to know something that really grinds my gears? It's that in episode 31, we see him use his little time stop. Now, here's the thing though. If they knew about this, the toilets knew about the whole free time stop rule, and at a much later point, then surely Time Clockman knew that already from the start. I mean, wouldn't he? It's like crucial information. So, why? Just why? Yeah, but enough of that. It's kind of making this sort of comparison between Time Drillman and Time Clockman sort of look more like this. But that's enough of a tangent, and I need to get back to the focus. So, this guy, the fact that he's introduced as if he's a god. I mean, you might as well just put in place the Emperor of Mankind instead. Also, don't mind that. I'll switch over there. That was a small mistake on my end, because I make assets as I do things, so yeah, that's quite a lot of slip-ups. I mean, this thing is introduced by quite literally dominating the entire episode by slamming these two. And then just gets bodied by upgraded Time Clockman. That is absurd in my eyes. Pretty much, he just equals the word solos. But one thing that can easily fix this is weakness. Now, the early versions of these two titans, they nailed it. All right, with upgrade. I mean, the Time Clockman having that magnet weakness, and Time Drillman having that sound weakness. I don't mind the fact that these are speaker helis, I just didn't have any speaker toilets. And even recently with Time Pencil Woman, they have the weakness of not being very good at close range. Now, on the opposite end of that scaling, where there's at least some weakness, we have Toilet Necromancer. Now, this skeleton, this let's rattle 'em boys, always looking on fella. Now, originally I liked him. He was an interesting design and an interesting concept. Right up until episode 100, where it was revealed that he was just straight up a god. And just straight up bodied the two main antagonists up to that point in the series. Aside from Tri-Titan, but I mean, you know. It was pretty much this case, but with these guys instead. Now, the point to take away from that is just don't make them like gods. If they can alter with any of these rules, they have power creep. Now, design elements. Now this is where the original series sets the golden standard. And you can truly see how there's a difference. Even in the silhouette, there's a change. Now, I feel like the one series that gets this kind of iffy is Virulence and his Skibidi Wars series. The upgrades tend to blend together, and it just... I mean, no foul play against him, it's just... I mean, I'm a big fan of Titan, the Sonar Titan. I was about to say Titan Sonar Man, but that's not what his name is. It's Sonar Titan. And even to some extent, Titan Clockman. And it is, at a glance, you could definitely mistake the two for one another. Now, what you want to do is not make it too far from the original. Now, I'm not putting any shade on Title Snakey, but at the same time, it's just a bit too over the top, in my opinion. And I think I'll bring up this point now. It has to stick to the point of the Titan, at least in some regard. I mean, these just look like Tri-Titans at this point. I mean, so they got speakers, TVs, at this point. Like, it's not even like a camera Titan or a speaker Titan, it's a Tri-Titan. Nah, that just grinds my gears a little about designs. Now, one thing you want to stick away from is these tentacles. Now, I threw together two designs, both of which use these good old tentacles. Neither look really all that good. And just generally, when it comes to tentacles, you want to avoid them, unless you can use them in some way that makes it look less like you're just trying to get another weapon shoved in. Now, on to the next subject, which is episode scaling. Now I think this small example definitely sums up decently. Now, upgraded Titan Cameraman in his prime could most definitely solo Titan, I mean, the G-Man decoy clone. In the episode of the fight, my Titan Speakerman, while he definitely served a role, if given, it would have just lasted a bit longer, but still ended up in a victory for Titan Cameraman, and I will argue that fiercely. But if in a fight against, say, the Scientist mech, Titan Cameraman would just be folded like a piece of paper. But meanwhile, upgrade Titan Tvman, which is from a later sort of episode scaling. Now the roles are kind of reversed there. It's a big old slap in the face for the Scientist mech. Now I feel like one character that we could use to best visualize this sort of visual arc scaling is with Titan Drillman. In the first few episodes, you have it where they're just dominating and killing everything. Then they start to struggle after a certain point where there's actually starting to face threats which can, go up against them, before eventually getting some kind of upgrade again, or some kind of boost that makes them strong again. And finally, this point, having a purpose. Now, this is another thing that really grinds my gears. And it hurts me especially because these are two characters which I actually kind of like. Now, Counter Titan, he has this big old upgrade, he looks fancy, he looks great. But they just booted out his body and given to C-Pen. Which, I mean, on one hand, it sets up C-Pen as a bigger villain overall, but also at the same time, I must bring up the fact that it kind of devalues from the point that, originally it was an AI doing its job. I mean, that was the original point with the fact that he just committed genocide on a bunch of humans at one point. Yeah, remember that? He just gunned down a whole crowd. Oh yeah, that was programming, not malice. They just ended up switching to malice, which again kind of grinds my gears, because overall I like Cpen as a villain. It's an interesting character design, and also, I mean, who doesn't love a giant mech with a minigun? And for crying out loud. And yes, if you're wondering, I have an affinity for giant mechs with miniguns, and I main Legion in Titanfall 2. Fight me. Now, but this leaves the Counter Spider in a kind of a weird position. I mean, as far as I'm aware, they made the Astral Foes. They made the original mech. It wasn't the Counter Spider on all of its own. So couldn't have they just made a new body for it? Or just killed the Counter Spider earlier? Instead they just have the Counter Spider out there. Just naked. Anyways, that's the end of the video. So, everyone, hope you had a nice time with me. And have a good night.